And there are serious new concerns today following this tragic murder that we reported to you yesterday in America's Newsroom of 4 Americans at the hands of Somali pirates. This is the first time that Americans have ever been killed by these pirates who've been holding a lot of people on the high seas. So now the U.S. officials are warning these thugs that they may be turning to these new tactics and that they may have some steep ramifications for that. Jean and Scott Adam and their 2 friends, who you see pictured here, were all shot to death, even after a desperate attempt that was ongoing between the U.S. Navy and these pirates at negotiation.
All 4 hostages had been shot by their captors.
Those were the horrible
Despite immediate
words.
steps to provide life-saving care, all 4 of the American hostages died of their wounds.
Yeah, those were the awful words that we heard from Vice Admiral Mark Fox yesterday of the 5th Fleet in Bahrain. They were the ones who were working on negotiating this, and the family and friends are trying to cope with this sudden tragedy.
My aunt was not dead when the Navy SEALs arrived on the ship. She had been shot. She was not dead at that time, and they did try to save her, but they were unsuccessful. I want the media to portray her as somebody who did her research, and why they were in that area, we don't know. But she was not haphazardly out on the ocean, just doing what, loosely traveling around.
So sad. All right, let's bring in Mike Barrett, former director of strategy for the White House Homeland Security Council and former intelligence officer for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Mike, welcome. This is such tough news, and this is something we have not seen in this whole pirate story over the last several years. One of the pirates was quoted as saying, it's never going to happen again that people get rescued and we get arrested. That is not the way we're doing things anymore. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's true. One of the trends that we're seeing here is that Somalia is sort of an ungoverned area, and there's a lot of lawlessness there. One of the challenges is that it basically used to be fishermen who didn't have alternatives, and so they were turning to violence on the seas. And now you're getting almost like a gold rush effect, where a lot of other violent criminals are flocking to this sort of line of work, if you will. And I think we're going to see a lot more violence rather than less.
It's an awful, you look through the sort of TikTok of what happened. And the report is that on Saturday, the president authorized the use of force if these hostages were in imminent danger. And then you have the report at 8 a.m. that morning of a rocket-propelled grenade that came from the quest where the pirates were towards this U.S. Navy vessel that was trying to save them, and then small arms fire that broke out on the ship, and then it goes from there. What's your take on how all of this played out?
Well, I mean, you have to kind of look at this from the point of view of the Navy. You've got an aircraft carrier and 3 other ships out there. You're shadowing a small vessel. It's a 58-foot vessel. You've got somewhere between 17 and 19 pirates on board. We've got some conflicting reports. You've got 4 hostages. That's a very small space with a lot of armed, unpredictable actors on board. I've actually was on board the Enterprise in 2001 running some similar operations to this. We were dealing with oil smugglers out of Iraq. It's always dangerous to do a boarding like this. You're in a hostage situation. These things often don't turn out well. And while it's a tragedy, I think what we really need to start thinking about is how are we going to deal with this for the long haul?
Yeah.
What are the things we can do to help out Somalia to make it a more stable place so that we can bring this under control?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the most lucrative way for these young Somalis to make a living, and it's been working really well for them for quite some time. There's something like 600 people who are being held right now. Why though? Once your hostages are gone, you've lost your leverage, right? Why would they have killed these people?
Well, it's true, but it's interesting to listen to some of the interviews and to some of the discussions that these pirates have had. They look at this as a legitimate line of work, and so for the same reason that you basically can't negotiate with terrorists because you encourage future additional terrorist acts, these guys are part of the big picture of piracy. They see it as a line of work, and so you really do run into a strange situation where they don't want to kill the hostages, but they also don't want to be taken captive.
But they were. Yeah, and some of them lost their lives. So this gamble didn't work out well for them either.
Well, and I think, they know, of course, about a year ago we had some Navy SEALs who took out 3 pirates who were holding a U.S. Captain on the Maersk, right, on the Maersk, Alabama. And, so they know that when they're dealing with the U.S. Navy that there's some problems. You also had a week ago about 300 South Korean soldiers who stormed a cargo ship. So, they're getting more violent, and we're starting to be more aggressive. We, as the international community, are starting to be more aggressive as well. But I think we're going to see more violence, not less, and that, unfortunately, it's just a very perilous part of the world right now.
Yeah. Terrible, awful tragedy for these 4 people. The first time that we've seen any of this come out of these kind of situations. Mike Barrett, thanks for your expertise and for talking with us today. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of these 4 people. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. Thank you.